And Christ said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, among his own kin, and in his own house. Mark 6:24. And I love that verse right there because it's something that I think we can all relate to. Those of us who are always moving, right, ever forward, elevating themselves, and just going through various different seasons of growth and change. So much so to where the people around you can't keep up. People don't even really understand what they're seeing sometimes because it's like, man, just a year ago you were on this, and now you're like a completely different person, a complete new incarnation of a person. And I think if you don't have that happening in your life, it's difficult to understand or recognize what you're seeing, because a lot of times we have this I think it's called philosophic perspective, especially nowadays with social media, because it's like with that algorithm, and it literally uh, curating a little world that you're living in, a little bubble that you're living in. And then when you have the same friends and family, and nowadays people, I don't even know if they realize that they do this, but you start to surround yourself with people who are less likely to challenge you or your bias, right? That's a lot of what's happening in the churches as well too, which is, again, why I think Christianity is botched nowadays. But it's also, when you again look at the scriptures, you realize that these churches, there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing. And actually, I had First Timothy 4 up. The title is actually called "Warnings Against False Teachers." Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times, aka the last days, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. It's interesting though, right? It's like this confirmation bias where you want to just be surrounded by people who are going to agree with you, who are going to permit, your ways or your lifestyle, and not necessarily exhort you to change, right? Exhort you to change, aka growth and development, and again, really dying to your flesh and becoming a whole new being. And again, if you don't have that going on in your life, you don't understand what you're seeing when you see someone else who is the complete opposite, right? Who's ever changing, who's growing, who's developing. I keep my page the way that I do, and to be honest, I want to create a separate page, and I've told a few people this, but I'm like still torn. I'm praying to God about it. I'm like, am I supposed to serve the people who I have access to now, in this way, or should I serve them in another way? I might make just like a food page, because I know a lot of y'all have followed me over the years for like really food and fitness. And when I look back into my Instagram, it's actually funny. It's like I've always been, shouting truth from the rooftops, but it's just evolved into now more from a godly perspective. Um, but yeah, nonetheless, it's like a lot of y'all messing up the algorithm for me, because you just watch but you don't engage. And again, I can understand that though, because it's like if I went from food and fitness to like now faith-based things, it's like, whoa, we weren't expecting this. But then again, part of that growth and development, you have to absolve yourself and release yourself from uh, that social dogma, right? Living with the results of other people's thinking, or being a vending machine. And I actually have like some pretty like traumatic experiences with spending a portion of my life trying to figure out like if I needed to change who I am to be digestible for people. And now I'm like, nah, I'm being who God created me to be. And y'all gonna have to figure it out as far as the digestion part. But yeah, so anyways, it's just interesting though, because it's like if we see the world as we are, not as it is, and if you have that again bubble effect that's happening when it comes to social media, and you are also living in maybe bouts of social dogma where it's like you're living to appease the people around you, or you're trying to continue to be a version that is comfortable for them but uncomfortable for you. When you see someone else who is living the opposite of that, you may think, hypocrisy, or you may think inconsistency, because they're not staying the same person, right? They're continually evolving. I bring this up because I posted a video the other day just about, Christmas, and I didn't even go in yet, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to make a video specifically with all the scriptures that just kind of debunk it. But I had a someone, I won't name male, female, or anything like that, but what they did was like they haven't engaged in any of my content for the most part, especially as of late with a lot of the faith-based stuff. And they went all the way down my page to the Christmas post that I made, the Christmas edit from last year, and they liked that. And I know exactly what that is, right? I'm always 20 steps ahead. If you watch Naruto, I'm that boy Itachi. You know what I'm saying? I was just telling a sister in Christ the other day. I mentioned something because she had asked a question in a way to where I knew what the other questions were behind that, and I don't always call it out, but I did in that moment, not in a way that was accusatory, but just let her know that like I see everything, and she was like, "Wow, like that's crazy that like you even thought that deep about it." But yeah, like you're right, and I was like, "I know, praise the Most High, man, that discernment." But anyways, again, that could be seen as like, oh, well, you were just celebrating Christmas last year. It's like, first of all, I not even in like a defensive stature, but or a defensive posture, but I never purchased like a Christmas tree. And mind you, I wanted to, like, I wanted to have the whole Christmas tree and everything. I've always had this infatuation with Christmas because it just felt like that time of year, but I never could express it really because my family was Muslim. We never really celebrated holidays like that. But my parents were trying to strike a balance because they saw that as like American culture, which is very interesting because when you just see it as culture, it can be seen as innocent when you celebrate it. But when you actually do the studies of, the ties back to like what were these things? These are practices. These are ritualistic practices, and then you tie it to the religions that they come from, and then you tie it to the deities of those religions that they come from. It's breaking that first commandment, right? If God said, love thy neighbor, right, and then the before that it's like love your God, right, and there shall be no other gods before me. It's like you're breaking both of those commandments because if you're disobeying God by virtue of doing that, and again, like if you don't know what you don't know, that's one thing, but we're in the information age, right? So you can't really claim ignorance. Now that you do know and you're still doing that, you're no longer setting a good example for new Christians. And then you're also making older Christians comfortable, right? The ones who might have they continue to celebrate Christmas, even some celebrate Halloween and just find ways to justify that as well too. Which is wild because again, it's like if you're doing that and you're also celebrating holy days, that's one thing, because then it's like, all right, well, like that's just confusion. But when it's not even talking about holy days and just straight up celebrating these pagan holidays, it's like, what's going on here? And again, what Bible did you read when you say you've read the Bible? Because it's in there. Anyways, so I wanted to finish off, in Timothy, 1 Timothy chapter 4. These things command and teach, verse 11. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity. Till I come, right? Till Christ comes back, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given thee by prophecy, with the laying on of hands of the presbytery. Meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. Take heed unto thyself, right? So pay attention to your life and unto your, the doctrine, and continue in them. For in doing this, thou shalt save thyself and them that hear thee, right? So it's like we're called to live a life in obedience to Christ and in obedience to the Most High. And Christ was at holy days. So what are we really doing? Is the question. And as far as like, oh, you don't need to push your beliefs on other people. It's like when Christians start saying that as well too, that's where I was like, y'all are lost because exhortation actually means urging, encouragement, persuasion, pressure, pressurization, pushing, insistence, incitement, goading, egging on. Play your part. Salute.